So I suddenly remembered I have a YouTube channel. Let's talk about a great movie from last year, Knives Out. Written and directed by Rian Johnson, who you may know from the sci-fi movie Looper and more recently a controversial Star Wars film.
What was your reaction when you finally got a chance to read this one? Were you satisfied and excited in terms of how integral Luke is and was to the story? Were you surprised by what Ryan chose to do?
Yes, I was very surprised.
Knives Out is essentially a fresh take on the murder mystery genre, which seems necessary because we haven't had a traditional murder mystery film like this in quite some time, never mind one that's this original. The only thing we've really had is several Agatha Christie adaptations, including 5 versions of Murder on the Orient Express and a film called Clue from 1985, but that's more of a light-hearted slapstick comedy.
What do you mean? Murder.
After the renowned crime novelist Harlan Thrombey tragically dies on the night of his 85th birthday, a team of investigators led by famous detective Benoit Blanc set out to find the murderer amongst the family members. While Knives Out features many tropes of other films like this, towards the second half of the movie, it turns into something a lot more unique and interesting. The first few scenes brilliantly set up what looks like your typical murder mystery film. The opening sequence is excellent and establishes the setting really well. We get this really cinematic shot of Harlan Thrombey's mansion with the dogs running towards the camera, which obviously comes into play later. We see the books he's written and the weird artifacts he's collected over the years. As well as that, you get the fantastic score and visuals which carry on throughout the whole movie. Obviously, the sequence finishes on Harlan Thrombey's dead body, which looks like something straight out of a game of Cluedo. Afterwards, there's the questioning scene with the family, because obviously every film like this has to have a questioning scene.
Who did this? I can't say so.
Even though we've seen something like this countless times, it manages to keep your attention because everything is done so well. The editing cleverly cuts between present day and the night of the party. The dialogue is fast-paced and witty, and the film does a great job of making sure everyone has a reason to kill Harlan. Obviously, every murder mystery film has to have a Poirot-like detective, and this movie's detective comes in the form of Benoit Blanc, played excellently by Daniel Craig. He's very charismatic and funny. He says random shit that sounds clever, but then you realise it is just really stupid.
It is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all.
And he has a strong southern accent that will put a lot of people off, but trust me, after a while you get used to it, and personally I think it makes the character a lot more memorable. Also, they are planning on making a sequel, so if the southern accent isn't doing it for you, then I suggest you stay well away from this film. I really like the introduction to his character, the fact that he's the last person to say anything. He just sits at the back playing piano, looking mysterious and shit. However, where this film starts to differ from other movies in the genre and transforms from a traditional murder mystery film into a straight up thriller is the flashback scene in Harlan's office towards the 30-minute mark. It's also my favourite scene in the movie. The chemistry between Christopher Plummer and Ana de Armas is fantastic. I really love the mix of comedy and drama in the script. Christopher Plummer's joking about how an overdose is an efficient way of murder. Meanwhile, Anna is trying to stop him from dying. The pacing is great, and what starts out as a light-hearted scene turns into something tense and emotional. There's a brilliant shot of Marta when Toni Collette enters the room as she realizes what's about to happen. Of course, there's the great sequence where Marta is carrying out Harlan's elaborate plan, which somehow he thought of right there on the spot. This leads nicely into the next scene where Marta and the detective search the house as she's trying not to get caught. After this comes the brilliant will reading scene. Obviously, Harlan decides to cut everyone from his will, apart from Marta, which, as you can imagine, makes not only the family confused, but her as well. It's also very satisfying to watch because you can tell the family dislike Marta from the start. It's very subtle, but after a few watches, I started to pick up on some things, like the family forgetting where Marta's from, and and the fact she was outvoted to go to the funeral. You get this brilliant moment where the family turns against her and she's left to fend for herself. Also, she's stuck in a tricky situation of not knowing what to do with all the inheritance, so that's quite interesting too. Whereas the first half is a lot more claustrophobic and tense, the second half seems to lose the great atmosphere of Harlan's mansion because obviously they used a lot more locations. That's not to say the second half isn't exciting. I love the tense conversation between Ransom and Marta as he blackmails her. Earlier on, it's established that Marta throws up every time she lies.
You have a regurgitative reaction to mistruding.
Which you could see as a cheap plot device, and it is, but I think they handled it well. The excellent car chase sequence with a brilliant score from Rian Johnson. Despite the second half being slightly weaker, it's certainly more action-packed and still enjoyable. This all leads into a very satisfying ending, or the big reveal if you like, especially the last shot, which is so well done. Whether I think the ending's believable or not, that's a different story, although the script has so many details and foreshadowing that it's hard to say they could have done anything more with it. Even the sound mixing is used to lower the volume of certain sounds and conversations, so different clues are not as obvious. Every scene feels necessary, and they cut the film down so the pacing works really well. Usually a script for this type of movie is the main difference between a really good film and a really bad one, and despite writing the script over a short period of time, I think Rian Johnson did a damn good job. Like many other murder mystery films, this one has a rather large cast, and a great one at that. It seems like they were struggling to find cast members, but then Daniel Craig said, "Hey RJ, I really love your stuff, man. Can I be in your next movie? But only if you pay me $3 million. And then RJ said, okay, sure. And then everyone else saw that James Bond himself was in the movie, so they offered to be in the film as well. We're talking Jamie Lee Curtis. We're talking the weird mother from Hereditary that gave me nightmares. We're talking Captain America and Frank Oz, who's in this film for around 5 minutes, but he's excellent. And all these other great actors who I haven't heard of, but they're all pretty great. However, there is one performance that stands out above the rest, and that is Ana de Armas as Marta, who is essentially the main character. The movie is told from her point of view, and a main part of the film is watching her trying to get out of this situation that she has no control over. Of course, everyone loves a strong female character, and that's exactly what she is. Right from the opening, we root for her because of the way the family treats her and the loss of Harlan, especially the scene in Harlan's office as she starts the fight to prove her innocence. The scenes with her and Daniel Craig are particularly entertaining. They have great chemistry, which is kind of funny because she also plays the next Bond girl in No Time to Die, if you know what I mean. Even when Ransom blackmails her around halfway through, Marta still comes out on top, which makes the ending so much more satisfying. Also, it's refreshing to see Daniel Craig in a memorable role. It shows he's not just capable of playing James Bond, which everyone knows him for, but he can also play other characters really great. The rest of the cast are brilliant too. Every actor is charismatic and brings something new to the table, whether that be a comedic moment or a standout scene. You can tell everyone is so excited to be involved in an original project like this that you rarely see nowadays, because films are now just corporate and shit. Like, did you know that they're making a Matrix 4? They're actually making a Matrix 4. Michael Shannon telling Chris Evans that maybe Harlan left him some cookies and milk in his will is very funny. Of course, Chris Evans saying everyone should eat shit is great too. Christopher Plummer is excellent despite being 90. The only weak character in this is Jacob, who is basically just the subject of a running joke, which was very annoying. With the amount of characters in this, it's hard to give everyone a lot of development, although the film compensates for that by having some commentary on politics or something like that. Rian Johnson has a very noticeable style that works brilliantly for a movie like this. Whether it be an interesting camera movement or a sudden close-up, he's always doing something creative with the camera. The shots have a lot of movement and everything flows together really well. The lighting choices particularly make things look cinematic. They used a lot of natural lighting, which makes the Holland mansion seem more authentic. There's a great shot of Daniel Craig where he's smoking and only part of him is lit. Another creative thing they did was use a lot of day for night shots. Basically, the scenes that were set at night were shot during the day, which probably helped the actors a lot because tiredness would set in and everyone would just collapse on the ground. It definitely makes the film a lot more enjoyable when you have someone like Rian Johnson firing the shots. Nathan Johnson wrote the score for this movie, who has worked on most of Rian's other films. Just like the style and cinematography is exaggerated, so is the music. You get these really grand and playful orchestral pieces throughout that fit perfectly with the movie and make it seem very theatrical. I especially like the opening string quartet and the score during the car chase, which adds a lot of momentum and excitement to that scene. Knives Out is a really great crowd-pleasing movie that I think is perfect at a time like this when we're all stuck at home and have nothing to do. Of course, with this being a fresh take on the genre, some people might not appreciate it as much as others. If you're a hardcore murder mystery fan, you might just want to stick to Poirot with that silky smooth opening theme. That being said, I think there's a lot in here for people to enjoy, and after seeing this film, it might be an idea to go and watch some of Rian Johnson's other films, because he seems like a pretty cool guy. Now to address the elephant in the room, I haven't uploaded in 3 months. Obviously, this global pandemic hasn't helped at all in giving me any motivation to make videos. I'm just glad that this video is out there and I can finally move on. I may or may not be working on something else right now. I don't want to announce it just yet because a lot could change. With that said, go watch Knives Out, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.